Meigavannen everyone, I am Melvolan Urgalan, and I am here to bring you the changelog and update video for version 2.0 to you, everyone who currently do not have access to it, so they can follow along in the development process a little bit better. I shall start by mentioning that this video is on the version that I have taken from the Dropbox folder on the 8th of May 2017, if you are interested. And I will, in this series, be doing the following. I am going to pick a category from a list of changes I have printed out next to me here. And I am going to, in one way or another, try and show off all the different bullet points on this list. And I am going to try and also get in a comparison from a version 1.2. The way I'm going to try and do this is that I am going to first record in version 2.0 a set amount of things. Like, for instance, I'm going to show off these things, and I'm showing with my hands and you can't see it. And I'm going to show I'm going to record those things, and then I'm going to jump over to version 1.2 and cut and paste with a video maker, or movie maker rather, and try and make it look somewhat continuous so you can get somewhat of an idea of what it looks like in version 2.0 as compared to in version 1.2. Now, you could argue that maybe it's better to look what it looked like and then go back to what it looks like now. But I would argue that since you are all playing, or might be playing, or interested in playing version 1.2, it's more likely you will have been looking at the same model very many times, and you're very much more eager to get to know the new looking one. And also I'm going to start here by showing off this new screen. As you can see, all the maps, or all the factions rather, have now a unique map here. As you can see, they now highlight where you're going to start if you select a specific faction. It did not used to do that before, so that's a new thing. Also, you can see that Harad has indeed been quite reduced as compared to having this large red blob down here at the start. It now only starts here. It will of course auto expand a little bit more, but I'll get to that later. And also Rune, as you can see over here, has gone in quite a little place, or small place to start with. They will of course also auto expand, but I'll get more to that later. And we have a fancy version 2 logo there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a faction. It doesn't really matter, but I'm going to give it a think, and I'm going to come back to you inside the game, and I'm going to start showing up some strategy battle or campaign battle model, or campaign model. See you in a minute, and welcome back. We are now inside a game. I have started as the Variags. I'm not going to show you that much, if anything, about the Variags, but just to show off their castle and city line, I have chosen the Variags. And we are going to start over here in Hobbiton actually, and look at a few resource models and just campaign strategy models. So first of all, we have the new resources. So we are going to have a look at those. As you can see here, instead of having that like bushel of grain or whatever that just stands straight out of the earth and makes really not that much sense, because it would not be already bunted together like that. Much nicer is this grain mill, which stands there proudly producing grain for the nice hobbits and the out there nearby laying fields and so on. So that's a new one. We also have, for instance, this hobbit farmstead here. That's a new trade icon, and as you can see, it is much nicer than one of these normal just lumps of coal or lumps of iron or whatever that's just littered around the map, or used to be. We have a nice little orchard with nice red trees. We have potentially even a lumber yard instead of a big pile of lumber. I just think that these resource models, which have been created by the Elite Dwarf, are a vast improvement of what they used to look like in version 1.2 and in the vanilla game, because it's just a what should we call it, just a resource plunked down in the middle of nowhere, and this makes much more sense, and it gives the countryside much more of a living feel, because you feel that there people live and there they produce things, and I think that's a really cool thing. Okay, so then we're going to move on to specific cities who have received a new settlement model. First off, we have Hobbiton here. As you can see, it has this nice little green dragon in there. It should be on the other side of the river, but you have had to improvise, so it looks really, really nice there with the two hilltops and a little bit of a farm there. I think it looks really, really cool. Really much wants me to go play as the hobbits. Okay, so that's those. Then we can move over to have a look at, what's that, Hobbit and Human Village. We shall have to find one of those. They are new, and I need to find one if I can. There we are. That's a human village, and as you can see, the town model is changed. There's no, well, it's this nice grayish houses with blue roofs, and I think it looks really like, how should I say, it looks Dunedain in this design, because it's really clear, it's really crisp and stands out with its bluish roofs and so on. So I think it looks really, really cool. Of course, these banners are also new, and they have been added, and these banners are also new just to make sure that you know where your forts are, because these are obviously almost copies immediately, but they have really taken the emblem and embossed it and made it look much, much nicer and bigger, so you can immediately see, okay, that's a fort, that's a village, that's an army, and so on. Of course, you could probably do that anyways, but just to make it abundantly clear, and I also think it looks really, really nice. Okay. After that, we have the city of Undertower. There we are. The city of Undertowers. And this one is also unique. And as you can see here, there is quite a bit of houses scattered around at the bottom of these two hills here. And I think it looks really, really cool. Just adds a little bit more immersion that not all hilltops are the same, basically. Okay. Then we are going to go to Kirgathol, if I can find that, which is not entirely certain. I believe it is somewhere over here to the west. And it has been found. It is in fact on the quite opposite side of the map as to where I was actually looking. Took me a little bit too long to find this. Anyways, this is a new settlement model, and as you can see, it's a nice continuation of the mountain here, the Grey Mountains on the Iron Hills. I actually think it is. I think that's the Grey Mountains over there. So it's a nice continuation, and it's always nice to see when the mountain continues into the settlement model and not just looks artificial, like, okay, here's a freestanding mountain. This looks just that much better. And keeping in tradition with dwarves, you're going to move over to the Danes Hall. Have a look at that, and in the same fashion here, you can see that the mountain range here actually gets a nice continuation with Danes Hall there. Whereas in version 1.2, the Danes Hall was just a mountain cropping like that, so you had like a big dale here or valley here, and it looked really awkward, and this looks just much, much more continuous and much nicer. Next up is Goblin Town, and we are going to move down to Goblin Town, which is here, and in the same fashion, quite a bit better looking by continuing the Misty Mountain chain of hills and mountains. Then it's Carndum over here actually, and as you can see here, it's a nice little settlement to indicate that here does actually the mountains. I think that's the Ash Mountains, but I'm not sure. It does not say up there. So the mountains come up here. There's a final mountain hill, and after that it just flattens out. And here you can see the nice dark walls of the Witch King and his lieutenants, which he built before moving away from here. And now it is the realm of I really can't say what's his name. I can't remember what he is called anymore, the leader now, but he controls it from there, and I think that's a really nice looking model. Next up is Thorin's Hall, which is over here, and again it's it's a continuation that makes it look much nicer when it continues with the mountain range. Then we are going to have a look at rebel villages, because rebel villages, I'm sure if I remember correctly, there are a few. For instance, no, that's a bad example because that's a unique one. But for instance here, this one is a remnant of Arthedain village model. And this is a Dunedain encampment, and it should be here as well. As you can see, Fenas Ruinen has gotten this new nice encampment building. And just to reflect this, that the fact that people up here have Anorian blood in them and stem from the same race as these humans, the rebel towns have or villages anyways, have gotten the same battle model or strategy battle model to indicate that we are indeed of the same blood and we are the same people. And I think it looks really cool to have that. It's just adds so much uniqueness to have unique campaign models, and I think it's such a cool feature. We are then going to have a look at the Variag city line, or town line, sorry, and how their new castle looks like. So I have actually gone ahead and taken over a city here, Foldberg. I did not have to do that, I realized later, but I took it anyway, so I'm going to show that off. And as you can see, actually that's a really bad example. Let's go here instead. I did not realize I had this castle here before I took Foldberg, so that's why I have Foldberg as well. But as you can see, they have a nice round tent, nomadic style, a little bit of a keep in the middle just to keep some semblance of permanence. As you can see, there's a nice horse pen on the outside so they can keep horses. Overall, a really, really well-crafted model, in my opinion. Really captures the nomadic nature of the Variags of Khand. Okay, they have received new town, new large town, new city, and large city models. And we shall see, I believe all four are represented here. There's a large town. Let's see, I found a village there. Yeah. As a Variag village, as we can see, the same carries through here. There's a bit of a tent. There's round tents and there's a horse pen, just to make sure that you can see how a village looks like, and I think it looks really, really cool. Okay, then we have a town. Let's see if I can find a town. I believe there was one. That's capital and large town. There we are. There's a town. And as you can see, it is basically the village, but they have added a wall around it. It looks really cool. Then we move over to large town still, and that's not it, but this was a large town. And the city has again grown a little bit. There's one additional horse pen in there. Wasn't there? No, there's one. There's two here as well, but it's larger and it fits better. And I believe that the center tent now has two stories, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, indeed, that is the case. And I think it looks really cool. Really nice to see them capture the nomadic nature of it. And if you excuse me now for a moment, I am going to go hunting for an orc castle. Be right back. And I have found myself an orcish castle. As you will of course know, the orc town line has been upgraded, but I believe that those modelers are already in version 1.2, so you can actually see them there if you are so inclined to see how the encampment grows. I think it looks really cool. So you can go have a look at that if you didn't know that it had been updated. Okay, so this is the orc castle design, and I think it looks really evil. Somehow these spikes on top there and the sort of darkish wood and lumber used for the gate and the walls make it look really, really sinister. You know that someone of evil nature looks there. It's like what Bilbo described basically in The Hobbit, when he saw weird towns and not towns but forts in the mountain range of Misty Mountains and knew that sinister people lived there. Okay, and the next new thing we're going to look at is the updated encampment, or rather besiegement models. And what that means is that these stakes and horse pens around a city when you besiege it have been changed, and there's catapult, tents and so on. And I personally don't see that big a difference if you did, because I almost never look at the surrounding thing to know that anything is besieged. I usually know that from the army standing close by. But I do notice that much, that it does indeed look a little bit cleaner, and you can see that it is clearly under siege by all the boxes and tents and horses and such things which are surrounding the city, and I think it looks really, really cool and a nice addition never in the case. Then the port blockade is also new. As you can see, there's a big net now surrounding the port here. Maybe not the, shall we say, most realistic of model, but I do think that it's more likely that you're going to have a big net and somehow get it out around side than the fact that you would be able to maybe build an armada or blockade a port. Basically is what I'm trying to say. And I mean, you can probably build a net there if you have managed to take over the port, so I guess that makes some type of sense. In any case, we're going to have to switch sides here in my notes, and I'm going to have to look at the next one. So next is the fact that we are going back to unique models, and we're going to have a look at Bree actually, and we can see it right here, sitting between two giant hills with nice red roofs and such things. A little bit of farming going on outside. This is actually very, very much reminiscent of the Bree you can see in Lord of the Rings Online. And I wonder if it isn't in fact modeled on that, because it looks really, really similar to that. With red roofs and all of these different exits from the city and these two hilltops, it looks really, really, really similar to that, and I think it looks really, really cool. Breeland also has a new town line, but I'm going to have to come back to that when I do it as Bree, or come in as Bree, because it is possible that not all four are represented. Though now that I say that, I'm going to put a pause in and go have a look around. Again. And unfortunately, no, Bree did not have all of the city levels or town line levels required to show them off, so I'm going to have to circle back to them after I have gone through the rest of the list and show you the new models there. But we have now jumped over to the Anduin, and as you can see, there's a new model for how the carrot looks like, and I think it's a really nice improvement, and I think it looks really cool. You can climb up and climb down quite easily. This one also reminds me quite a bit of the Lord of the Rings one, so I'm pretty certain that's also inspiration taken from there. And after that, we can have a look at the fact that there are new vanilla forts, so to say. That meaning that normal forts, which are just rebel and not owned by anyone specifically, are changed and look new, and we shall see if we can't find a good one to show that off. That's a cool one. I don't think that's one of the vanilla ones though, because it isn't a rebel. Let's have a look, see if we can find one. Do tell me if you spot one. Aha! Yeah, it is in fact this one. Well, that's a clan of ended white, but nevertheless, it is a rebel fort, and it has nice tents in the inside and timber walls, and it looks almost like one of the forts you can find in Skyrim. Actually, it reminds me quite a bit of some mining camps, if I remember rightly, and the bandit camp which lies outside of it reminds quite a bit of that. Looks really, really cool. Next up is the fact that Wildmen have got new forts, so you're going to have to look for those. Now, Wildmen, that should be Dunland, Endwaith, and probably Anduin. And there we go. That's the same, though. Maybe that wasn't a rebel fort, actually. Maybe we should have to look a little bit more for that, and that was in fact a Wildman fort instead. And if so, I apologize for that. That looks to Arnorian and Dunedain to be a rebel fort. Those do too. And if I do not find one, it could be that. I'm not sure. Actually, it says that there's a new Wildman fort. So presumably there should be one, but I can't find anyone more different than that. So presumably it is that's a Wildman fort, and potentially that is also the vanilla forts. Who could be non-culture specific? That's a really hard question, actually. Ah, there we are. Okay. This is the vanilla forts. Shows really bored there. I think there was one here. Apologies for all the jumping around. I hope you are not getting sick by all of it. But, there we are, of course. Yeah, that is the vanilla fort, and the former one was the vanilla one. No, sorry, this is the vanilla one, and the former one was the Wildman fort. So apologies for that confusion, but it got solved now in the end, and if nothing else, you got to look a little bit more of the world map. The orcs have a new fort. I showed that. No, that was castle. There we are. There's the fort. Nice, simple watchtower in the middle. Leathery tents in between, inside. It looks really orcish. Again, you can tell that is sinister. Though I find it very weird that they would only have one entrance and only be staked there, because I think it would be much better to have a few more entrances so you can escape, for instance. Though that's just a realism argument and probably it doesn't carry any weight anyways. Okay, so Wildmen have new castles and keeps, and Northmen have new castle, keeps, and strongholds, which are the three tiers of a castle line. Goes keep, castle, stronghold instead of the former Motte and Bailey. I believe it was Stronghold Castle, but I'm not entirely certain on the order. They changed the name because it made someone a bit annoyed that it made no sense that it would go in that order. So we can have a look at, that's a castle. Do they have, there's a keep as well, and that's all they get, isn't it? Yeah, it is, so we can have a look at them. Here is a Wildman Castle line, the first one, the keep. This is the lowest one. This one is compared to the Motte and Bailey. And as you can see, there's a nice hilltop up on top of which there's this nice box structure, which is the keep. There's some standing stones in the middle and small huts, and I think it looks Wildman-like, because I would believe that some type of druid cult or druid worshipping people, or druids basically, would live there. Not druid worshipping, I'm so sorry if that offended anyone. Not my intention. And I saw a strong castle also. There we are. And again, it's on the box thing is on top of a hill, and it's a nice round building, or settlement really. Looks really cool. I do love these new campaign models because it looks so awesome and brings so much immersion, at least in my mind. Next is the Northman castle line. I am not certain I'm going to find all of those quickly, so I'm going to put a pause in here so I can actually go hunt around for them. Be back. I did unfortunately not find all three, so I'm also going to have to circle back to the Dalians and show off their new castle line. But after, in lieu of that, we are going to have a look at the Haradrim village instead, and as you can see, it's just a bunch of red and white tents, and it looks like that could be a village of some nomad tribe as well. Maybe not as nomad as the Candish people, but still quite easy to take down and keep on going. After that, we're going to have a look at Casa Du. And change here is basically that they've stretched out this a little bit so as to allow for 2 units to stand in between instead of just the 1 space. Make it be a little bit more realistic, I guess, so that you can actually fight in between and not just have to fight in one of these locations. We can also have a note at this new thing here. This is of course on top of the tower where Gandalf fought and slew the Balrog. It is also from here that Gwaihir saves him and is then carried to Lothlorien to be healed. That is called Durin's Tower or something along those lines. I'm not entirely certain, but I believe it is called something in that fashion. Alright, So the Easterlings also have a new town line and a new castle line. So shall we have a look and see if we're lucky enough to find all of the new ones for them? It is unlikely to be very, very quick, but I'm going to have a look anyways. Yeah, there we go. Here is a Runian village. As you can see, it's just a bunch of stone buildings. No, nothing nomadic about them. It's just a basic stone village. Looks really cool. It's nothing impressive really, but it's cool to see that they have a unique one. A town. Hunting for that. There we are. Quick enough. Bur Ermanarikis. A fancy golden gate for some reason, because that's a good way to spend your gold. I mean, they use it for armor as well, so I mean, if you have it, why not show it off, right? And there's a bit of red thatching and things on top of the buildings, and I think it looks Runian, it looks Eastern, if you can say that. But it looks like that, so cool. Large town is here, and it's a little bit bigger basically, apparently, and a few more stone towers, but nothing more really. More houses. Still thematically good. That's... Oh yeah, these are actually Northmen, so maybe I could have found the village and... No, I wouldn't. I will come back to that, sorry. I believe this is then a large city. I believe it is, yes. And as you can see, it has now gotten a much more impressive red stone wall around it with that looks like a portcullis, and looks really impressive, and it looks like it would belong in the desert because it's red and it looks like it has been sanded down by desert winds for quite some time. Looks really cool. And finally, to have a look at the Easterling huge city, we have to go to Umbar, and that is how that looks like. And it's gone away from the reddish tint of the walls, which is all right. And this one looks actually almost orthodoxian with all its onion domes. Well, it's not an onion dome, is it? It's just a normal dome. It looks really cool, and you know that this city is going to be very easy to defend and hard to capture. Okay, that is the town line. Then we are going to have a look at the castle line. Castles and strongholds is what they have. And here we have a castle, first of all. And as you can see, there are... Wait, only castles and stronghold? Oh, have been updated. Okay, so they do in fact also have the keep, of course, but nothing special has apparently happened there. So here are again the stone towers of Greystone and the Golden Gate, because that's apparently important, and red roofing and so on. Looks really cool. It's basically an adaptation of the town, but you have a little bit more robust of a wall and more concentrated, and it looks cool basically. And I do hope we can find a what's called Stronghold as well. I do hope there is one. Let's see if we can't find one. That's a little castle. That's Rovanian, and that's not the same. No, that's a what Northman, I presume. Okay. It appears as if I cannot find a Easterling stronghold currently. They do not seem to have one at game start, nor does there seem to exist one. Unless that's it. But I believe that may just be a large town for the Haradrims, so I'm not entirely convinced that is it. That's Men of Herondos, and no, that's not it either. No, I cannot find one. So bear with me while I change the civilization. Right, so we're back at Rune now to look at the final things. First of all, I realized I did never show off the large city. I only showed off the city. So I went ahead and upgraded Mistran, and now it is a large city, and the only difference is basically that it's a little bit bigger. Maybe a few more towers and so on, but nothing more special going on there. Still looks cool. And I also gone ahead and built a stronghold, as you can see here. and looks really, really cool. Nice defensible position, which with a very, very dominating and intimidating keep, in my honest opinion, or stronghold in that case, and these walls look very, very strong. I would not want to be one of the foot soldiers having to assail that, shall we put it that way. Okay. Okay, then we're going to jump to Osgiliath because there has been some improvements and changes to them as well. So, Osgiliath. First of all, as you can see, the western and eastern part have been changed a little bit. They look a little bit different. This here, this building in the middle, the tower, is actually a resource which is located somewhere around here and put off center so that it appears in the middle of the lake or river. And I think this looks really, really cool. When it is rebuilt, it also has a little bit of a different look to it, and I shall see if we can't also show you that by going as Gondor after a while. I'm going to have to continue as Rune for a little bit though. Dome of the Stars is what it's called, and it is its own resource model and positioned there and looks really, really cool. Lake Town has got a new model. Let's have a look at it. Here we are. Lake Town, or Eskarot, as it's also known as. Dalian Port is actually right connected there, and you can't really see the difference. And I think it's a nice touch that you can't really see see where it leaves off. As you can see, the water underneath here isn't actually moving, but it blends in so well that I don't think you will actually notice. It is a nice looking model, really, really nice, with a nice bridge and a port right there close by. Makes it look really, really cool and connected. Dale also looks very, very prominent and intimidating on top there of the hill as it is, with quite a few steps and looks like 2 rings of defense, and I think it looks awesome. All right. We then have the dwarves. Of course, they have their new fort model. That's a Dalian fort, but I think it's a dwarven one actually, because looking at it, I don't think humans would build them like that. But just to be sure, we shall have to find a dwarven fort, if I can. I believe Casa Doom has one of them. Where did it go? There we go. Yeah, that's a dwarven fort. Looks really cool. The dwarves have also received new town lines and castle lines, so we shall see if we can't find them as well. All the way down from village actually, so it is quite possible I'm going to have to go as them as well to show you the different models. No, there's a dwarven village. As you can see, it looks quite a bit like the Dunedin encampment actually, doesn't it? Yeah. Looks cool still, but... Oh, actually it's only from town up that has been changed. My apologies. I can't read. Town, that's a keep. Yeah, I'm not going to find them. I'm going to go as a dwarven settlement faction as well to show you those. And on that note, I believe that's all the changes for Rune that I can show you at the moment, and for the map. So, or of the campaign models at the moment. I'm now going to. No, actually, no. You know what? I am going to go and do the different factions and show you the different lines as they upgrade, so that we do not stray too far from doing one thing and jump into new things. That will hopefully keep it a little bit more coherent through all my ramblings. So I'm going to go as the different factions. I believe it is Breeland, we need a Northman, and we need the Dwarves at the very least to show off their unique town and castle lines. So I'm going to do that and be right back. Okay, and we're back, and now we're having a look at the Breeland town model. And as you can see, it is a nice red thatched and red brick, quite in the same spirit as Bree actually is with the roofs and such on. And I think it looks really cool. Really, really nice settlement to have and own. Now we're going to go to large town. Not add money maybe, but process CQ and scan. Okay, and it has upgraded and added a few more buildings on outside. otherwise it looks quite similar. We will need this one, so I'm going to build that and upgrade it. Oops, sorry, there we are. Okay, so now it is on the city line, and again it has expanded a little bit, added a little bit more of a watchtower feeling, I feel, on the towers at the front ends of or entrance of the settlement. Still looks cool. We are then going to, no, that's Ballista Tower. We need the, where is the, can't we get, yeah, we should be able to get large city. Don't we have enough units or population, sorry? What? I believe we should have enough population. So what is the problem? Right. So the problem with Bree growing from what it is currently, that being a large town to a huge city or a city, one or the other, or rather, you can upgrade to large city, but then going to huge city is going to require you to build the master guilders, and you're also going to be able to have to choose one or the other in the Breeland choice script, which is going to be detailed more a little bit later. So suffice it to say that you're going to get a choice as Bree, and you're going to get to choose whether or not you go as, I believe, merchants or Dunedain, and depending on which one, I can't remember which one of those, you will get access to an upgrade further for Bree. Unfortunately, I can't show that now, so you're going to have to trust me on that one. Now, furthermore, one thing I have yet to mention and will not mention otherwise, so pay attention. Most of the campaign models, especially the watchtowers and the besieging things and blockade campaign models, the ones that go around your cities and go around your ports, they have by Elite Dwarf been actually made quite a bit performance friendlier, meaning that if you're one of those like me who build a lot of watchtowers everywhere to get perfect vision everywhere, you're now going to see an improvement in performance because they're not going to take as much memory and RAM and so on. That's the same thing, RAM and CPU power and so on, to process and render. GPU, I presume, as well. So that's quite a big improvement. So you should see better performance, more stability, and other such things thanks to all of the forts, no, maybe not forts, but watchtowers and besiegement things and blockades have received a decrease in polygon counts, I think was the official reason, and therefore they are easier to render. But now I shall go and nick a castle so I can show you how the Breeland castle line looks like. So I will be right back with you. Right, welcome back. I have now nicked a keep and upgraded it in true Breeland style. This is now a Breeland castle which you are looking at here. I think it looks really, really cool. Fits really well with the Breeland model. Or Bree model rather. I think it looks really cool with green bricks in the wall. Makes it looks like moss has entered into it and like gives it a really homey feeling. It belongs in the woods. It's not like a marble white thing which is just built up to stick out. It's supposed to blend in somewhat, and I think it looks really, really cool. Really impressed by all of these new strategy models, and especially the ones that the Elite Dwarf has made. I'm really, really happy about them. But okay, that should wrap up Breeland. And what we're now going to do is we're going to jump over to some Northmen and have a look at what they get in their new campaign model line. So I'll be right back with them. And hello, hello, hello. We are now as the Dalian, so we are going to have a look at their new fort line. We are going to start with a Northman keep, which is this one. As you can see, it's it's a very robust, very northern, in my opinion, look on it. As you can see, there's a very much timber look. Timber has been used to build it. It can clearly be seen. There's a central keep with a little bit of a ring guarding it. And I think, yeah, it looks very northern. It's somehow you need to be close together, and it feels safe, basically. And I really like it. I think it looks really cool. So we are then going to have a quick look at what the next level is. Oops. Process CQ Win. There we are. Next one, it looks almost a little bit Catholic, because I could imagine you could think this is a church type structure. But nevertheless, it is still very, very northern with its timber like walls, a little bit of a brick on the roofs and so on, and a portico there in the middle. But it looks very northern, basically. Very, very northern. I apologize for these trees in the way. I hope you can see still and appreciate it in its full glory. It looks very northern in my opinion, and I like it. It looks really, 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 really cool. As does all the models, but these in particular are stunning. Right, so when you've then finally go to a stronghold, which is the top tier, you will notice that, oh, hang on, you can change the wood for stone walls. That sounds like a really, really tough job, but apparently someone needs to do it, and someone has done it. And as you can see here, now it's very, very robust, and you know that this is a key center of trade and protection in the northern parts because it's built to stand no matter what comes at it. I just think this looks cool. So there we have it. We have all the 3 Dalian fort buildings. I do hope you have found them interesting, because now I am going to jump over to an Orcish faction and so show you something cool which they have got. So I'll be right back with Mordor in a few seconds. Be right back. So what was this cool thing with Mordor? Well, orcs very, very rarely get to a coast in one way or one place or another, in my opinion. So you may never have actually seen this new change, but orcs have gotten their own port model, and it's just such a cool little thing. Such a tiny detail, but such a huge immersion thing, because it really does look like something the orcs would use. Dirty lumber, not even a gate, it's simply you enter through there. A few lumber, what are they called, pallets or something with food and stuff on it. It's very ramshackle, very easy to capture, but I mean, come on, it's got character. Really, really like it. It's a huge immersion breaker. So now you know, they have that. Maybe you never would have actually noticed otherwise, but now you know. So I'll come back to you in a little bit. Right, so we are now back as actually the Dunedain and not Gondor, to show you that it is in fact the Dunedainian, or the Dunedain, who can rebuild Osgiliath, and this is what it looks like when it's been rebuilt. And it looks really cool, having blue domes on top of grey armaments and grey, what they call walls, with that, come on, I can know, the dome of the stars in the middle there being an own resource thing, I think, or model. I think it looks really, really impressive when you have finally built this, instead of just having a few houses littered around here on both sides. You now get this feeling of continuance in this elliptical form, and I think it is beautiful. Well done, Elite Dwarf, well done. This model is actually used in one more place, and that is in Tharbad, over here somewhere. There we are. Royal Tharbad and Tharbad. It looks identical to Osgiliaths before you upgrade them, and now after having been upgraded they look identical to Osgiliath. Why is that? Well, that was because the bridge rebuilding was a bit wonky, I presume, and therefore they decided that this looks much cooler. We will allow the Dunedainian to rebuild Tharbad and make it look as awesome as it might have looked in the Anorian times. And I think it is a swell idea, and I approve of it, I think, because I think it looks awesome to have more Anorian buildings up here to the north with their fancy grey stonework and blue domes. And I think it's just beautiful. So those are new, okay, and after these I am going to head over and have a look at dwarves. Can you imagine that? See you in a moment. Alright, and we are now playing as the Dainians. Elves, not elves, dwarves. Of course. I don't have a problem with elves. I'm not obsessed by them. Never mind. So, dwarven villages. We are starting with a town. Simple reason being that the dwarves do not start with a village and therefore they do not have a model for a village. Nevertheless, we have a quite interesting town. It looks very dwarven in its design, I must admit. There's no wall around here, even though there's supposed to be. Well, it doesn't matter. These are quite defendable, I would believe. Being able to hide inside these quite strong circular fortifications and being able to shoot out. Very dwarven. I could see them building these things if they were above ground, and I think it's cool. It works. It's good. I like them. Okay, so let's go after town to large town and see how that one looks. Okay, there's the wall. Not much more than that. As you can see, there's a few gatehouses which also employ these cylindrical styles, and yeah, it looks good. Looks very, very dwarven, very robust. You won't get in there anytime soon unless you really, really try. Okay, then we're moving to... What's that? That's city, is it? Yeah, city. And I find that hilarious. I apologize, but that's such such a dwarven thing to do, isn't it? Build something ridiculous just to remind you of the mountains from your homeland over here. You just need that little reminder of home, basically, don't you? It's beautiful, truly is. I'm sorry for laughing. It's beautiful. I do think it's very dwarven, and I like it, and it's probably very, very hard to get in there. Probably has layers and layers of defense inside as well, and I think it's very cool. Very, very well done. Stoneworkers Guild House is required for the last one, right? And we actually need more population. I thought I had given enough. Add populations. 9,000. Yeah. And more money. You would think I would have been prepared for this, but apparently I was not. There we are. Let's build it. Process CQ Scar. Now you learn how to do this yourself. And the only difference really when you go to a large city, huge city is available as well, but not to dwarves. No, not to dwarves. So, Dwarven City, large city, sorry, has added these, well, it's basically more defenses with more towers around the edges. It looks dwarven, basically. It's very robust. I can imagine quite a few men perishing trying to besiege these dwarven wrought walls and armaments and all the such things, and I would not want to have to assault that. If nothing else, then because that one is an intimidating structure. So those are all the new town line dwarven models. I'm now going to go and nick a castle or keep and show you how the dwarves advanced through those ages. So I'll be right back. Okay, and we're back. Again, apologies for the trees, but this one was the fastest one I could find, and well, you can probably see it anyways, clearly enough. So what you can see is a interesting design on the walls. It's bulging out at a few certain positions, and for some reason there's only one gate apparently, and these might be gatehouses, I'm not sure. It looks like you could potentially walk in there. And it's dwarven in its design, and it's reminding me very, very heavily of these buildings, of this building here. You can see that there's the big center dome or thing in the middle, and similar buildings around. I think it's, yeah, looks dwarven. Basically, that's all I can say. Go up to the Stronghold, then the final level, and you add a few more armaments, basically. A few more towers and such things. So yeah, very dwarven, very intimidating. As you can see here, if people are stupid potentially and decide to go here, try and assault that part of the city there, or the wall there, instead of here, you can tell that, well, first of all, they're idiots because they will be shot at from the sides. which they would not be if they attacked there. Then again, this design also delays the enemy in such a way that they will be forced almost to go only here and come up on the armaments there. The dwarves can now focus the defenses there and have archers lined here to shoot down there. Whilst the enemy tries to come up here, they will be stopped there quite effectively, I would believe, and will have to be forced to add additional ladders to the side. I think it's an interesting defensive structure, and sounds very Roman. And finally we have the Dwarven Port, which you may or may not be able to notice depending on how quickly you get to one of these coastal regions. Of course, Eredluin might be able to get one a little bit easier. Nevertheless, this is what it looks like, again employing the circular design, but as opposed to the Mordorian ones, you can see that this is actually properly built. It has proper, I don't know what those are called, but it has proper lumber yards. You can arrive with quite a few ships. There's defenses. It's organized such a difference to the ramshackle Mordorian Orcish thing. Of course, ships will be hard pressed to get in there because all of them are on land. But other than that, I mean, looks cool. Okay, so now having shown off all of the dwarven things, I am now going to do a quick run around the map and give you a little bit of a tour, especially with some of the buildings which will not, or towns which will not be able to be upgraded past village. Specifically in Hobbiton, there are quite a few of them. Specifically Hobbiton. Hobbiton is a village and will stay as such because hobbits don't like to build things, presumably, and it will not be able to be built or upgraded past village to town. It will forever stay a village, so you will always be able to enjoy this nice strategy model. Sackville likewise will always employ this model and will never upgrade past village. Yes, Undertowers as well will employ the same one actually as Sackville, but it looks so cool, so why not use it twice? And Sackville, or Undertowers, sorry, can neither upgrade past a village. Unfortunately. Well, maybe unfortunately, but I think they look cool. And also Deep Hallow, employing this same building design or campaign style, map style, model style, can neither be upgraded past a village. The Hobbiton Hobbit Heartlands made to only support villages and basically live in farmsteads, but why not? It looks cool. Unfortunately, those cannot be upgraded past a village. So now you know that. Then there's one more, and it's Erech, which I might not be able to find because I'm bad at finding settlements. I really couldn't tell you, but Erech is a city, no, sorry, a village, which cannot be upgraded past the village. It lies somewhere. I am unfortunately completely incapable of telling you where it is, but that one you cannot upgrade past a village, and those are the villages in this game which you cannot upgrade past a village because presumably of their unique strategy or campaign models, and it would be a shame to lose them basically. So why would you want to do that? Can't find it. Okay. Well, in any case, we are going to move forward then. There are also a few large town buildings or cities that have not yet become large towns or are large towns, but cannot go past that level. One of such things is the Treebeds Hill. First thing you will notice is that it starts as a village. It can upgrade, but not past a large town. That's a change apparently. And one thing to note about Treebeds Hill is that the Ents have been removed as a faction from the game. So this is actually a rebel village and not the Ents village anymore. Because we did not need the Ents as a faction, but we do like the Ents as a unit. So that's why they stayed, but their faction did not. You can go and take it over if you have a computer that can handle Ents, then you are in luck and can fight them. Be warned, however, that in this forest there are quite a few ants littered around waiting for you to make a one misstep and assault you in the forest, and you will maybe never leave again. Can't upgrade past a large town. Then we have over here in Breeland, Archet, which is that. This village at the moment cannot upgrade past a large town, if you get that. But why would you want to cut down all these nice trees? Good question. But if you want to, you can upgrade it to a large town, not bigger than that. Brown Boat or Ruskiaven, because I do like the fact that it's still in the game, which I have been going on and on about. Nice homage to the Finnish in the game, in my honest opinion. Of course, you would have to know that it was named Ruskiaven, but nevertheless, it cannot go above a large town. Then neither can Gund, which is over here. Neither can Leotholt, which I believe is an Anduin building, right? Sorry, city. Maybe not. No, there it is. Leotholt in the forest. Of course, the elves become really, really annoyed with you if you actually decided to try and go higher than that. So maybe that's just as well. Emin Nufuin, which does sound like something which would be in a forest. In my honest opinion, it does sound like Mirkwood, actually. Isn't that what Mirkwood is called, actually? Emin Nufuin, the Forest of Darkness. That might actually be it. No, I'm not sure, actually. I remember reading that name. I'm not going to swear on that, but you can't upgrade that city past a large town. Gobel Tolfalas, which might be here. I'm so bad at finding these cities. I do apologize. I don't know. Maybe it's here. In any case, you can't upgrade Gobel Tolfalas either past a large town. So now you know that. Might be here. I do not know. Okay, and finally Michael Delving, which is over here actually. The capital of the hobbits, if I remember rightly, cannot go past a large town, meaning you can upgrade it once. And Dagoland can neither go above large town. So now you know that. Hopefully that adds some information to your knowledge. One more thing that has changed up here whilst we are scanning about is the fact that Tharbad has changed. As you may recall, it was cropped up like this before, now it's like that. I will have already shown you, of course, that it will upgrade to Osgiliath when upgraded with a Dunedain faction. But that's how it looks like before that, and I think it's cool looking. Royal Tharbad on the western side, because that's where all the royalists live apparently, and it looks cool. Really, really cool. Final thing to note before I jump around a little bit more is that Amon Sul has been changed and is over here. As you will recall, Amon Sul used to be the town inside this region of Western Hills. It is no longer that, it is now just a fort. It still employs the same battle model. Yeah, battle model. Or battle map, sorry. And you will fight in Amon Sul if you fight in that fort. Likewise, if you fight in Ost-Sul, as long as it is a village before you upgrade it, you are going to fight in Amon Sul on that battle map. The reason simply being that there's not many defenses in this village, so the people would have to run over to the Dunedain fort of Amon Sul and seek refuge there and fight there, because that's much more defendable. Until you upgrade this to a town, you will fight on Amon Sul. Likewise, you will fight on Amon Sul in that fort for the remainder of the game. So now you know that. But that will conclude that part. I'm going to come back with a few more map changes, and yeah, after the few more map changes, we're actually done. So see you in a bit. Right. You are welcome back to the map changes. So what has actually happened to the map, not simply the models that have been changed. We are going to start here in the southern part of the land with the River Hanen here. As you can see, we are in Harad lands, and this river here has become sailable, as you can now sail with an army if you like. Here into the into here along the river, past Finabel, and all the way up here to Amrun. For all of your, shall we say, raiding needs, as maybe Dol Amroth or maybe even Gondor if you are so inclined. I think that's an excellent thing. Well, excellent and excellent, but I think it's a cool thing because that means you're going to have an additional vector of attack to get to Amrun, for instance, or get definable because you can approach by boat and not have to slog your way through the heartlands. So I think that's a very cool thing. And one thing to keep in mind here is that this fort here is actually guarding Amrun quite properly, or quite well, because the only way to get to Amrun by boat is to either land here on the fishing village, pass the fort, get to Amrun, land there, cross there, pass the fort, land there, cross there, pass there, and get to Amrun. Why is that important? Well, if you can bind up the enemy here for at least 1 or 2 turns longer, you will get that much longer to actually prepare defense in Amrun, so that might actually be very important that you send 1 or 2 or 3 units to this fort, simply to delay and get that that control around the region, so that you can stop people from just running past it. And I think that's a cool thing. There are also fewer now crossings here. I believe there are 3. I could always check. We can take a general or a unit basically. There we are. And we can try. We can go cross there, as you can see. Why should I click them away? That was stupid. Or you can cross there. That's another crossing. And then there should be 1 more, I believe. No, there's not. There apparently is only those 2 crossings, and then the one at Amrun, which is not really a crossing, making it much harder to actually get to the southern part of the land, but that might be a good thing. Right, then we're going to jump to the Sea of Rhun. As you will notice, the Isle of Number has been removed. This is no longer a region which anyone can take because it belongs to the Wasteland. And the Wasteland, as you may know, is the region which lies to the topmost of the map, along with Forodwaith for some reason. And Wasteland is unconquerable. Well, I presume that if you could get here to Forodwaith, you would be able to take it, but that seems highly unlikely. Why is it removed? Well, you can always go to that fort if you like, but it is removed because it added an extra port to the Sea of Rhun, which just increased trade quite substantially and allowed Rhun to become even more crazy than they already were. Also because even if you removed the port and left the city, the Dorwinianites were lining up along the coastline ready to assault it for some weird bug reason. So therefore, just to make it simpler, it is now Wastelands and no one can take it. Well, yeah, no one can take it. But if you want free upkeep, go to that fort there. Other things that have changed around the Sea of Rhun is in fact that we have lost 3 ports around it. First of all, Lest here no longer has a port. You can't upgrade that fishing village to a fort. Vintirion Iur here has lost its port. Now that I say that, I actually were there and built a port with them, so I'm not sure if that means that you just can't build a port if you're Rune, but you can build at the dwarves, so maybe you just have to go adequately high. Now that is actually really interesting, because I remember being able to build a port there. And also Elgaer no longer has a port. That is no longer a port. But now I got really curious, so please bear with me for 1 second. So I jumped over to Rune, I captured Elgaer, and you can indeed build a port. So it's either a bug that you can still build a port, or it simply means that they don't get a port at game's start, which means that it just takes that little bit longer for Rune to actually grow. I am honestly not sure which one it is, but for whatever reason, Lest, Elgaer and Vintirion at least don't start with a port, so that at least slows Rune down a little bit. Let's move on. Lond Angrim, which lies over here somewhere, has been moved a little bit. I'm not entirely certain where it lay, but it has been moved a little bit so that it doesn't bug out when trying to load the battle map. I said that. And then, yes, we are going to do Grey Mountains over here. Now, an interesting change here is that Danes Hall, the region of Danes Hall being Western Grey Mountains here, has been extended as it used to run just along here, the mountain range. It now extends along this river here. This change might not seem like a big one, but it actually is, because that means that when the Dayan dwarves arrive from here, take Withyboard, and then decide to go conquering further west, they cannot simply go to Rakyaberg and then continue out west. The reason being that the AI is highly unlikely to simply pass through a region to get to a region on the other side, even if that region on the other side is weaker. So that means that the dwarves are going to be more or less forced to go to Danes Hall and try to capture that one first, giving the Misty Mountain Orcs a little bit of a buffer actually, because Danes Hall is highly defendable. And they get quite a few defenders there. So that should allow them to hold back the dwarves quite a bit more. The elves can of course still cause problem because they can go to Rakyaberg, but they usually don't do that much. So overall, that's a good little change right there. Then over here we have a new region, I believe. Bursagach, I believe, used to be quite a bit larger than that, extend over here and so on. And the changes are basically made so that there's a more intersection with the regions here. So whereas, Talathang might actually be a new addition, and this region was to Burmaling. And the addition there would just cause the dwarves to get to Mirairon, for instance, and then maybe take Skarn, or not, something along those lines. Basically, what this change does is that it allows the Dayan dwarves to potentially go for Skarn immediately and therefore quicker get involved here in the Eastern Theatre and actually be able to stop the Runians before they approach or come too far north. That is a possibility, and it seems to have worked from what I've gathered so far. Alright, now we know that. Furthermore, we now know that over here in Rudaur, or in former Arno, you can no longer get the Rudaur units in either Ostsul, over there, or from, where is it? Come on, there, or Fennas Druinen. The reason simply being that the Rudaurians would be highly unlikely to want to join with the Anorians or former Anorians and fight with them, and therefore they are no longer recruitable. Then over here to the south, actually the most southern part of the realm has been made into wastelands, actually joined with the region over there. Why is that? Well, because this part down here it's needed just because we know that the map extends further south and we need to show that. Also because reduction of the map would be a pain and you would have to relocate very many things. Therefore, you can walk across here this oasis around Ankaragme, but not much more than that. You cannot walk here because this is unpassable terrain, even though it is very sneakily blended, but it is basically that, and you can't walk on it. Furthermore, over here to the south, palm trees have been added. Instead of the European trees, which are littered around everywhere else, you actually have palm trees. And that's a nice little addition because it did make no sense to have European trees down here. And other than that, I do not think there's much more to mention actually about the map changes at this point. I've gone through most of them with either the model changes or, as I did now, show you how the map has been changed. Oh, one thing I did forget to mention in the Osgiliath one is that the Beacon of Gondor hope system here with these ones have been upgraded actually. I forgot to mention that. But now you know that as well. So, we have now concluded the map and strategy model overview or campaign model overview. I do hope you have enjoyed having a look at the different models and the map changes, so on. As I will just remind you, this is based on the 8th of May 2017 build of Divide and Conquer version 2.0. Changes are probably going to happen still, and if they happen, I will make new videos and show you the updated ones. So what's going to happen next? Well, I mentioned at the start that I may go to 1.2 and show you the differences. I'm not going to do that because the video is already above 1 hour long. So I don't think you want to watch much more. So there's that. And also because you will be playing 1.2, so you probably will be aware and maybe not even want to watch them. So I'm going to stop this video here, and then in the next one I'm going to do something different. Maybe it's going to be units, maybe it's going to be scripts. I haven't decided yet. But do stay tuned for that one. If you have any questions or think something is wrong, please let me know so that I won't make the same mistake. And other than that, I do hope you have enjoyed it, and if you have indeed watched, thank you very much, and I will see you later. Thank you and bye.